did you hear about that? The Nolan Wells phone. This is the bombshell. Everybody want to know what is going on with Nolan Wells' phone. But why don't y'all want to know about what's going on with the boat that Nolan Wells was on? Because they have yet to give that boat to the cops. They said they're ready to play ball, just like Nolan parents say they're ready to play ball. All right? But Nolan parents say, I want to have my independent people do the phone with the police. I don't want to just give them the phone over to the police because we don't trust the police. The police is corrupt, okay? So that's all that is. And Nancy Grace, honey, she's getting to the case. Y'all have to watch this video. This video is a bombshell, okay, about Nolan Wells' phone, and they have the audacity. They are threatening her like, you better bring me that phone or else. But yet, they're not putting out a warrant. Put out a warrant and make it open for a criminal investigation. The Sam guy said it's going to be a criminal investigation. We have to see. I would like to hear the sound of that. But let's watch this video. Let us know your thoughts. And I got so much.
The family is afraid. Many people have seen injustice in other cases that have nothing to do with them. And I believe they fear evidence will be destroyed or mishandled, and it can never be recaptured. It's very possible it could never be recaptured.
The phone in the Nolan Wells case. I have a message directly to DA Angel Myers McGrath from a former prosecutor who did the same job you did, 30 years criminal trial experience, certified criminal trial lawyer, former head county prosecutor. Please listen carefully. This phone issue is getting out of hand. Nobody knows what to believe because you keep refusing, as I've said previously, to do proper public relations. Now, supposedly, there's a letter out there that says you agreed in July to have the phone examined with the experts from the family at a specific location and in a specific way, and that they are ready, willing, and able, and gave 4 dates this week where they would be willing to surrender that phone for examination. Now, I've been involved in things like this, so I don't know what's been said or hasn't been said, but I'll say this. The only story that we're listening to is that from Nolan Wells' family. And when they send you a letter and you don't respond and correct that letter, then we can only presume rightly that what's in that letter is correct. So the question becomes, if you had an agreement in July, why is it not being honored? There are accounts that you have demanded that the phone just be turned over in violation of that agreement. And that is not a good thing, not a good look. I can tell you from the commentary on the posts that I've had that your constituency out there in Mississippi does not trust law enforcement and does not trust this investigation. Your continued failure to update the community on any misinformation, if there is misinformation, or say, for example, if this agreement is not what the agreement was, then you need to get out there and you need to let the public know. Now, stop with this thing that you don't compromise investigations about speaking about them.
24 hours. That's all the time Nolan Wells' parents were reportedly given to hand over the phone that could contain some of the last pieces of their son's story. But the darkest part isn't the deadline. It's why now, 6 weeks into the investigation, after a July 15th plan was reportedly agreed upon, something changed. And suddenly, the phone became urgent. Nolan's parents weren't asking for the investigation to stop. They were asking for one thing: someone independent in the room. So why does that matter? What could happen the moment that phone is unlocked? What are they so desperate to make sure someone witnesses? And if there's truly nothing unusual on that device, why is 24 hours enough time to demand it, but not enough time to answer the questions surrounding it? Because tonight, we're going inside the Nolan Wells phone saga. And there's one question nobody seems willing to answer. What changed? Before we go any further, drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you believe Nolan deserves answers, hit like, subscribe to Uncovered Crime, and turn on notifications. Because tonight, we're following the timeline, examining the unanswered questions, and looking at what this phone could mean for the Nolan Wells investigation. Stay with me.
You've got a question for Scott Eicher. Let me tell you who Eicher is. Digital forensics expert, founding member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, historical cellular analysis expert, former FBI 22 2 years. Former homicide, Norfolk, Virginia Police Department. Works multiple cases and currently with precision cellular analysis. I could go on. Scott, tell me how this examination, I mean, you don't just pick up the phone and go, okay, I looked at it. What is a phone examination? How do I get evidence of potential snaps that were sent that day, texts, emails, photos taken during those critical hours? And important, how do I find out if anything was deleted? We've heard, yes, it's deleted. No, it wasn't deleted. The only way we're going to know is from a forensics exam. How do you do it? Now, take baby steps. Go ahead.
It's pretty easy nowadays. You get the physical phone itself, you hook it up to a device like the Cellbrite, which is one of the main producers of this type of software that can download phones. First of all, obviously, you have to have the password to the phone. If not, then you have to go through a lot of processes to get past the password and into the phone. But once you're into the phone, and this can be done with other people standing by, as you were talking about, another investigator for the defense or for the family or something like that being there, they can sit there and watch you download the phone. And basically, once you download a copy of what's on the phone, and you're not really messing with the evidence that's on the phone, you're not changing it, you're just copying it to another computer, and then you can start going through that data. You can look at all the text messages, and it'll even let you know which ones have been deleted. Now, of course, deleted means, it's
Put them up, please. Put them up, please. What do you see when you're looking for deleted? Do you see like you log on and you just see all this data, X's and O's and digits, and how do I tell something's been deleted? Explain that to me. I mean, unless it's in recently deleted, but even my twins at age 3 knew how to go into my phone and find recently deleted and delete it. How do you find it?
So it's actually just, on the computer screen, you're looking at all the lists of text messages, and it says right to the right of it, this one was deleted. So in an aspect, if it hadn't been overwritten, think about how computers work. You delete something just like a phone. You delete something, it kind of takes it and moves it into to an area you're not using. And then once, if the phone starts getting full, it starts writing over that deleted stuff. So things that were deleted at some point in time are still there and can be recovered. The actual texts of the text message, the content of the text messages is still there until it's getting written over by the phone.
Scott Eicher, has your company, Precision Cellular Analysis, performed these independent examinations of phones?
Yes, they have. We have a whole group of individuals in our company that just specialize in downloading phones, rebuilding phones that are damaged so that the data can be pulled from the phone, and breaking into the phones if we don't have the password.
What is Cellbrite and how is it used?
It's a program that's been around for a good amount of time, probably 15 years, and each year it gets more updated, but it's a program that actually goes into the phone and allows you to copy the information from the phone onto a different computer. And then you can look at that data and spend time going through it, get all the chronological information from text messages to pictures to Snapchat. So you can get a timeline from all these different areas of the phone.
What about a digital forensics go bag? A portable data collection rig. We saw it in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. It was used when the investigators went into the Guthrie family home. You see it on field operations, intelligence, digital forensics. They extract or they mirror digital info right there on location. A tactical exploitation kit like a forensics go bag.
Yes, those are available, and basically Cellbrite is that also. It's more for phones, but you can have the same type of device for computers and for other devices in the home. But Cellbrite is also a portable device that you can take to a crime scene, take to a house, or go to a individual's residence and do that download. It doesn't have to be done in the office.
According to the family, they have made the phone and their independent experts readily available.
The Jackson County DA's office, as well as our forensic team, and possibly the FBI, we're going to together download and examine the phone. So it's done one time with everybody together, right? This is very common in the law. This is what is supposed to happen. We are waiting for the DA to determine the time, the place, the date. Let us know, and we are going to be there with our forensics team and anybody else, but it's done one time, one examination. We're ready for it to happen.
From our friends at WLOX, that's Liza Park, working with Nolan's mother. To you, Susan Hendricks, now somehow it's made to look like the family, Nolan's family, is not cooperating. Let me understand what has happened. So Nolan's family went out of state. I don't know why. And while they were gone, they get a demand letter from the DA's office?
Yeah, that said you have 24 hours. And they were at the NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Georgia. They spoke on stage and they said, wait a minute, we're not there. We can't do that. I thought we agreed on July 15th at that meeting that we would come together and do this. And now you're acting like we're not cooperating, but we are. So then they came back now, Nolan's family attorney, saying, okay, any day this week, we need 24 hours notice and we'll make it happen. They're not hiding the phone. They just don't trust for the DA to have the phone alone without an independent investigation into the phone, someone who's not biased.
And, you know, Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter, the family is afraid. Many people have seen injustice in other cases that have nothing to do with them. And I believe they fear evidence will be destroyed or mishandled, and it can never be recaptured. It's very possible it could never be recaptured. I mean, you and I and Joe Scott, you did an incredible recreation in the Ellen Greenberg case, remember? Ellen Greenberg stabbed, I think, 20 plus times, including the back of the head, the back of the neck, the back, actually severing the dura of her spinal cord. And the ruling was suicide. Okay, this is what I'm leading up to. So,
yes, ma'am.
All of the evidence was not documented at the scene. The police this is in Philly, told the apartment manager, sure, clean it up. As a matter of fact, here's a professional cleaner. Call them. They had it professionally cleaned. Bye-bye, evidence. Gone. Not only that, the apartment manager took a video of the inside of Ellen's apartment to show basically, look, this is how it was before, this is how it is after. We want to prove we didn't take anything, we didn't steal anything, everything is accounted for. And that's SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. So when they didn't process the crime scene, they went, oh, thank goodness, at least we have the video. They handed the video over to Philly PD, and they lost it.
Yeah.
Just let that
There's one more thing. There's one more thing that kind of ties back to. There's one more thing that kind of ties back to Nolan's case here as well, and that's the fact that with Ellen, I don't know if you recall this, the computer made it out of there as well. Do you recall that? And that was never examined, right? And so that's. You know, again, we're left wanting, Nancy,
Ellen's
relative to all of the data.
With all of the info leading up to the time of her murder, ruled suicide, taken off the scene. Now, I'm not claiming that the people that took it, they were family members of the fiance. For all I know, they took it because they didn't want anybody to steal it. And nothing nefarious happened. But the problem is, You lock down a family. Look what's happened to Nancy Guthrie. A pizza delivery guy came and walked right over the blood evidence to deliver a pizza. Same thing here, Dave Mack. I get why the Nolan Wells family is fearful.
Well, Nancy, this investigation, I'm putting air quotes in that because if you remember early on, it was a drowning, and no investigation had even been done. You realize he was missing. It wasn't like it was hours and they went back and he was missing for almost 2 days. And the family early on was not getting information that they felt like they should. All they're saying is, we want to be assured of the chain of custody, how the extraction on this phone is going to be performed, who would have access to the extracted data. That's important. Preservation of the evidence, and then when is this phone going to be returned to us? This is the last thing they have of their son. And those things that I just mentioned, those were the items discussed on July 15th. And there was no follow-up after that until August 12th, when the DA's office, tells the family, well, you got 48 hours to turn the phone over, and they were out of town. So, there's a lot going on with the most important part of the evidence.
There was no way by the time they find out about the letter that they could comply with the 48-hour requirement. Susan Hendricks. Oh, my stars, Hendricks. The family is now seemingly being accused of wrongdoing because they haven't handed the phone over yet. What happened back on, I've got a big note here, phone July 15. Isn't that when the family had a meeting and said, yes, you can have the phone, but they want independent examiners there at the same time, right? Tell me July 15, what happened?
July 15th, the attorney for the parents of Nolan met and said, yes, we want to give over the phone, but we want someone in the middle here, someone from the outside, an expert to analyze the phone. It appeared everyone agreed. Then all of a sudden they get a letter saying, we want the phone and you have 24 hours to send it over. The DA sent that. And the parents were out of town and said, wait, we don't have the time to do that. Hence the narrative that they're not cooperating. Now, they say, Nolan's parents, look, we have our experts on standby. This week, pick a day. And not to mention, on the 19th would have been Nolan's 19th birthday. A difficult week for the family, but they say, hey, we'll give up his cell phone. We want someone, a mediator, if you will, an expert in the middle.
Well, this is interesting, what you just said. Joe Scott Morgan, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, which I've been there, and it is a world-class Crim Pro division. Whole building, whole floor is set up just to recreate scenes. I was so impressed by it. Joe Scott has worked with me on multiple recreations, intricate recreations at Jacksonville State University to try to figure out, is what the defendant is saying, does that make sense? Is what the state is saying, does that make sense? Just all sorts of things you can learn from actually recreating the scene. That said, Joe Scott, I have examined evidence myself at the crime lab, and the crime lab out on Panthersville Road is amazing, state of the art, with the defense attorney there. Mm-hmm. And I typically would not allow a defense team to examine the evidence unless I was there. Do I think they're going to do something nefarious? Maybe, probably not. But I don't want them to even touch it if it could somehow, compromise the evidence. And it can. A lot of the times, even touching it can compromise the evidence. So this is not unheard of, that the family wants an independent investigator there when the phone is searched.
Yeah, you're right. And it happens. Nancy, I've actually been in autopsy suites with defense attorneys, believe it or not. All manner of people come through the labs over the years as an independent set of eyes. So let's just say that they do, in fact, have an independent individual examine this phone. And I think this question goes back to you as a prosecuting attorney. Would any kind of findings that were on that phone would they be negated as a result of the state not doing? You know, if you wanted to move forward as using this evidence in a criminal prosecution, perhaps, would it invalidate it since the state is not doing it? And what are you going to find? And how many hands are going to be on this phone at that given time?
Are you saying that if the defense did their own investigation of the phone and the state did not, would that negate the defense findings?
Yeah, because remember, we've got a grand jury that's going to be impaneled, allegedly.
HELLYES. Because the first thing, if the shoe was on the other foot, I would do is, isn't it true? I gave you the opportunity to review the phone. Isn't that true? On this date. And you didn't do it. So don't come complaining now. Oh, yeah, that would be a matter for cross-exam.
Be one more person arriving at a family's worst moment with a camera. Then he spoke for over an hour. What he delivered was not a eulogy. It was a list. Questions about the boats, about a phone that did not stay with its owner, about a distress call placed in the window Nolan Wells was last seen alive, about tissue that never reached a second examination table. Some of it holds up against the record. Some of it we could not confirm, and we will tell you which parts and why. No charges have been filed, and everyone named here is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But those questions were asked out loud.
Nolan's death an accidental drowning before he did any investigation. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. As far as I'm concerned, that meets the definition of public corruption. But stand with Warren, Art. Warren, if Nolan is your brother and best friend, why did you leave him on an island without his cell phone and his keys? Why did you take his cell phone and keys back to the mainland? You left him there and took his cell phone and keys back. Can you please explain that to me? What person wants to be on an island without their phone? Help me understand that, Warren. I don't know of an 18-year-old who wants to be anywhere without their phone, Art. They don't want to be in school without their phone. They don't want to be at home without their phone. They don't want to be out of town without their phone. They don't want to be at the mall, the movies, the restaurant. They don't want to be nowhere without their phone, let alone on an island with no way to get off. You left your best friend on an island, your so-called brother. You left him on an island with no way to get off, and you took his phone and his keys. Can you explain that to me, Warren? While you're thinking about it, I got another question for you, Warren, while you're thinking about it. You said at 11 o'clock, you called Miss Christine to see if she heard from her son. Warren said, Art, I called Miss Christine to see if she heard from Nolan. She said she had not heard from Nolan. Can I ask you a question, Warren? If you took his phone, how in the hell was his mother supposed to hear from her son when you have the son's phone? Did you tell Miss Christine that you had her son's phone when you called her? I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. Think about that, Art. He called the mother and asked her if she heard from her son. But he knows she didn't hear from her son, Art, because he has her son's phone. How can the mother hear from Nolan when you have Nolan's cell phone and you left him on an island? And I bet you didn't tell her you had his phone. Because if she knew you had his phone, Art, she would not have had to use Life 360 to find the phone. If you had his phone and you called her at 11 o'clock to see if Nolan was okay, why didn't you tell Nolan's mom you had his phone? Why did my sister Christine and my sister Tashima have to use Life 360 to find their son's phone? Because you playing games. You playing games. You playing in our face like we stupid. That's what this is. I don't know if he did it, Art, but he damn sure knows who do. I allege and I believe that all 30 of those white kids on all 3 of them boats know exactly which one of them did it, and the rest of them are covering it up. And guess what, Warren? And the rest of you 30 white kids on those 3 boats, let me explain something to you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody didn't tell you. Federal hate crimes law, you can go to jail for the rest of your life in case nobody told you. Guess what? The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, you can go to jail for up to 30 years. And if Nolan was unalived by more than one person, that constitutes a lynching. That constitutes a lynching. So you can go to jail for up to 30 on the Emmett Till Act. You can go to jail for life on the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Hate Crimes Act. And in the state of Mississippi, Art, if you are an accessory after the fact, not accomplice. Accomplice means you participated in the murder. Accessory means you help cover it up afterwards. If you are an accessory to the fact, after the fact, Art, you can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. So they can go to jail for up to 20 years, Mississippi law. Accessory after the fact, you help to cover up the crime. You can go to jail for 30 years on the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act because more than one of you probably participated in Nolan's unaliving. And under the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Federal Hate Crimes Act, Art, they can go to jail for life. And this is why I need Nolan's step pop and coach to watch what comes out of their mouth and stop trying to help these white kids avoid accountability for what they did to Nolan. Because if the tables will turn, white folks are not going to try to help your child avoid any accountability. So stop the c***ing. Now, another question I have for Warren. You said you and Nolan been friends since 8th grade. Since 8th grade, Art. But Sister Christine says she don't know none of them kids really, Art. She don't know them white kids. So help me understand how you are Nolan's best friend, friends since 8th grade. You called him your brother. Y'all spent the night together July the 3rd, the morning before y'all went to White Devil's Horn Island. And his mother don't even know who you are. And you said out your own mouth that y'all never hung out at Nolan's house. So how are y'all best friends? I had best friends growing up, Art. My mother knew who they were. Who has a best friend that they mom don't know about? Help me understand that. A best friend and the mom don't know him, it sounds suspicious. Why didn't you tell Miss Christine you had her son's cell phone when you called and asked if she heard from him? Art, as far as I'm concerned, there's probable cause he has something to do with this. Art, I'm holding her son's cell phone. I left him on the island. I took his keys and phone. And I'm on the phone with the mom. I got his phone, but I'm calling his mother at 11 o'clock. Have you heard from your son? And I'm holding her son's cell phone and I don't even tell her. Art, this ain't making no sense. This ain't making no sense. And I want to know from Sheriff John Ledbetter, Art, Jackson County Sheriff, you don't have probable cause just off of that alone? Somebody calls somebody's mom asking if she heard from him while they have their phone and left him stranded on the island. And if you care so much about Nolan, Art, if he cares so much about Nolan, the so-called white best friend, Art, why did you wait till 11 o'clock? Y'all left the island 4:30. Y'all left the island 4:30. If you care so much about Nolan, why are you not calling his mother until 11 o'clock? It's pitch black outside at 11 o'clock, Art. It's pitch black. It's almost midnight, and you wait till 11 o'clock to call his mom and ask her if she heard from her son, but he's supposed to be your brother and best friend. Listen here, Warren. I was born that night, but I wasn't born last night. I was born that night, but I wasn't born last night. And then I have a question for his dad, too, Art. I don't know if you know this, but his dad has started an online fundraising platform for Warren and two of his friends. I think they raised $160,000 so far. $160,000. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has received a warrant. Nobody has been indicted. Nobody has been charged. Art, if you are innocent, why are you raising money online? You ain't been charged with a crime at all. The state of Mississippi is doing everything they can to make sure y'all don't get charged with anything. So why are you raising money online? Why did y'all cancel your social media? Why are y'all lawyering up? They hired Donald Trump's lawyer, Art. One of Donald Trump's lawyers is now the three of their lawyers. If you innocent, what you need Donald Trump's lawyer for? If you're innocent, What you raising $160,000 for? It sounds like y'all getting ready to defend yourselves. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like y'all think the truth is going to get out really, really soon, and y'all want to be prepared for it. Again, Art, I'm not saying he did it, but I definitely believe he knows who do. Now, we're going to get to this call. But before we get to this call, Art, I want to ask a question to Benjamin Crump. Attorney Benjamin Crump. I met him twice, Art. I met Benjamin Crump the day before I graduated with my doctorate at an Urban League conference in New Orleans. I presented at a workshop at the Urban League conference in New Orleans. This is July of 2012. And I flew back to graduate and get my doctorate in clinical psychology. We had lunch. It's a few of us at the table. We had lunch. Okay. This is around the Trayvon era. And then I met Benjamin Crump again at HBCU Delaware State University about 3 or 4 years ago at the Black Farmers Conference that was put on by one of the Black professors there. She invited me to keynote the luncheon, and she switched me out at the last minute for Attorney Benjamin Crump. I understand it was a Black bourgeoisie event. I'm not a member of the Black bourgeoisie. I got switched out. I understand. No harm, no foul. Ben Crump gave a good speech. But here's my question to Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton. Art. How long are y'all going to wait around before y'all call a spade a spade? How long is Ben Crump and Al Sharpton going to wait around, Art, before they tell the world that they don't think this investigation is being done correctly? How long before Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton demand that the FBI and Department of Justice take over this investigation? Art, it's been over a month and we know nothing. It's been over a month and we know nothing. Now, let me say this, Art. There's several circumstances through which you can demand the FBI come in and take over an investigation. One of them, Art, if there is a suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. The FBI, the Department of Justice, can come in and take over a case on the suspicion of public corruption or obstruction of justice. So you're going to say, Dr. Umar, what evidence do you have of that? First of all, they declared this an accidental drowning before they did any investigation. That's a cover-up. Not only that, Art, they never treated the boat like a crime scene. They never took a look at the other 2 boats. We have no information at all on the other 2 boats. Those 30 white kids should have had their cell phones confiscated, investigated. All their social media should have been investigated. Their homes should have been investigated. They should have all been interrogated. They should have been investigated to see if they or their parents had any connection to any of the white hate groups in the state of Mississippi. None of that was done. They gave the boat back to the owner, Art. They gave the boat back. The boat may have been a crime scene, and they gave it back. Now, according to the Cajun Navy, another question for Ben Crump, Art. According to the Cajun Navy, they offered Ben Crump to put dogs on the boat and let the dogs sniff it out to see if anybody had recently been deceased on that boat or if there had been any blood on that boat. And according to the representative from the Cajun Navy, Ben Crump told him don't do it. So I need Ben Crump, respectfully, I'm not accusing him of nothing, Art, but I need Ben Crump to explain to me why you didn't let them use the dogs to sniff out that boat. Why did you not let them sniff out that boat with them dogs? Did you have your own dogs to sniff out the boat? Because if you didn't, why didn't you let them sniff the boat out with the dogs? The dogs can tell, Art, if somebody had recently lost their life or if blood had been spilled. He said Ben Crump told him no. I need Ben Crump to explain that. I need Sheriff John Ledbetter to explain why the boat wasn't treated as a crime scene, potential crime scene. I need him to explain why all them white kids wasn't arrested and questioned, because if it was black kids and a white kid went missing, Art, they would have all been arrested and questioned. You know that. They would have all been arrested and questioned. And then let's talk about the autopsy, Art. Let's talk about the autopsy. So the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, they do their autopsy July 7th, right? July 7th. And then Nolan's mother requested an independent autopsy, as she should have. They send Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. When the black medical examiner gets the Nolan's corpse, Art, the throat tissue and the lung tissue is gone. How is he supposed to determine if Nolan died from being choked out or if Nolan died from drowning if he don't have the throat tissue or the lung tissue, Art? How is he supposed to do his job and y'all didn't send the throat tissue or the lung tissue? And nobody has explained yet whether or not the medical examiner in D.C. is ever going to get the throat tissue or the lung tissue. And I personally believe, Art, I personally believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. I believe Nolan was deceased before he hit the water. And the reason they held on to the throat tissue and the reason they held on to the lung tissue is they didn't want nobody to know that Nolan was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Emmett Till was murdered before he hit that water. Just like Dr. King's brother, A.D. King, was murdered before he hit that water. Remember, Art, when Dr. King's brother was murdered, Reverend A.D. King, they found him in a swimming pool. They ruled it a drowning. And then one of the paramedics said what, Art? One of the paramedics who took Dr. King's brother out the pool, Art, said he didn't have no water in his lungs. The paramedic said he didn't have no water in his lungs, Art. And plus, A.D. King, just like Nolan, A.D. King, just like Nolan, was a great swimmer, Art. Was a great swimmer. They kept them lungs, I believe. They kept the lungs, Art, because they knew that those lungs would have provided evidence of the fact that Nolan may have been deceased before he hit that water. They kept the throat because it may have shown some trauma that Nolan may have gotten choked out. And then you got the red substance around the back of the head that the DC medical examiner discussed. We don't know if Nolan got hit in the back of the head. We don't know if the blood simply drained to the back of the head. But here's the thing, Art. They say Nolan was found face down in the water. Nolan was found face down in the water, Art. Not only that, Nolan was transported face down to Washington, D.C. So guess what, Art? I have my doubts as to whether or not the red, which is probably blood in the back of the head, the subcutaneous red area, Art, I don't think that has anything to do with the blood draining to the back. You want to know why? Because he was found floating on his face and he was sent to Washington, D.C.